Hello, and welcome to our very first episode of Elle's Kitchen. I want to introduce you to some of the star players in our recipes. So, if you're brand spanking new to cooking and baking, you are in the absolute right place at the right time because we're going to start from the very basics. Like, we're going to pretend that this is your very first time in the kitchen, you have no idea what you're doing, and you're about to go to the grocery store and you need to know what to write on your list so that we can begin baking together. So, number one thing, you want to get an all purpose flour. I use all purpose flour because it can go any way. Out of this bag here, we can create Alfredo sauce. We can create the coating for fried chicken. We can bake some muffins. We can bake some cookies. We can bake some bread. We can create savory dishes, and we can create sweets as well. So a lot of things can come out of all-purpose flour. The difference between all-purpose flour and self-rising flour and bread flour is that you'll get bread and different other creations that rise out of those. But without all-purpose, you can create your gravies, you can create your sauces, you can create some delightful cakes and pies and cookies and things like that. So definitely recommend all-purpose flour. Now, for some healthy substitutes for flours, you can also use spelt flour. And if you are keto friendly, I like to use almond flour as well. And sometimes I will half and half the recipe with almond flour, half it with a regular flour or spelt flour as well, if I'm trying to cut down on the carbs. So next on your shopping list, butter. A lot of the recipes will call for butter. I like to use either a whole butter or now there's a plant-based butter as well that I sometimes substitute the recipes with. So I don't use margarine at all because that is actually one, I think, in chemistry, little molecule away from being plastic. So we steer clear of margarine, but we either use the regular butter or plant-based butter. Another staple ingredient for baking is vanilla extract. Now, this is one ingredient that you definitely do not want to skimp on. Vanilla extract. You want to make sure that it's pure vanilla extract and not artificially flavored. And the difference between the two, and you can look this up on Google. So the pure actually comes from the vanilla bean. The artificial flavor actually comes from beaver booty. And I'm serious, it's beaver booty. So if you don't want to be eating the booty of a beaver, you want to make sure that it's pure vanilla extract. So the next ingredient that I really don't skimp on is a baking powder, and we're going to use this in all of the different dishes like our muffins. We use this when we're baking cakes, anything that is called to rise, or biscuits, all of that is going to use baking powder. I use this particular brand, and I think there's some other brands as well that are aluminum free. Aluminum is not good for us. It actually leads to some issues with our brain, causes like blockage. So I'm very conscious about the aluminum in the food and deodorant, and we're not going to go on that tangent. But this is aluminum free, and I always use aluminum free baking powder. All right, next is a good milk or cream, or like I use a milk and cream mixture, the half and half. Some people, they use the evaporated milk. I personally, I like the half and half because it has a kind of, pretty liquidy consistency that you can manipulate and get to the consistency that you'd like. So I like to start off with this. As far as sugar, I don't use white sugar. I like to use the light brown sugar. I use dark brown sugar as well, but we kind of stick to our brown sugars, honeys, natural sweeteners. And as far as salt is concerned, we use the Himalayan pink salt. It has a lot of the vitamins and minerals that our body needs and that it calls for. And so a lot of times less is more with this kind, and it nourishes the body. So it's in our book. Then we have the rapid yeast, and we use these for our pizza crusts. We use these for our breads and our yeast rolls. Really, 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 really good. So you want to keep this around as well, and you can make a quick crust and different little goodies with this. So it's good to have. Now, this is not a necessity because butter, can do the same thing. You can take a little bit of butter and coat your different pans and stuff like that with it. But I like to use the Pam spray because it just kind of does things a little bit quicker. So I use that to grease the pan so that the muffins and the cakes and different things don't have a hard time getting out. So those are the basic ingredients and the key players for our baking game. So make sure you have those on hand. And our first item that we're going to start with are going to be muffins. And you have your choice. You can get bananas. You can put blueberries. I believe we have some organic blueberries on hand. And what we're going to show you is a basic recipe. And with this recipe, you can take and you can tweak and you can double. So whatever you need, you'll be able to take this basic recipe and make whatever type of muffins you want to make with it. So once you have it down, you know how to make muffins after this, okay? So I'm so excited. Make sure you also have eggs. That was the only thing we didn't get a video. They're in the fridge. But you want eggs, just regular large eggs. If you don't eat eggs, a good substitute is flaxseed, or some people substitute eggs with applesauce. And also in some of the vegan places in the stores, there's some pretty good egg substitutes. So we're vegetarian a lot of the time, so we do use eggs and milk and butter sometimes, but there are some great substitutes if you don't use those things so that we can still bake and cook together. Okay? Yay! Well, thank you for tuning in, and we cannot wait to get started with you and do our first baking video. Thank you. Please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our first video where we're going to make muffins from scratch.